Hitler's concentration camps, although called labor camps by the Nazis themselves, were essentially conveyors for the destruction and humiliation of prisoners. And despite the fact that in each camp the guards and warders invented their own perverted ways of punishment for the slightest offense, a certain unified scheme still existed. By the way, before a prisoner was punished, it was formally necessary to obtain approval from Division D, Concentration Camp Inspectorate, but in reality this did not happen, or the punishments given were approved anyways. So what could a prisoner be punished for? For simply a disrespectful look, for taking off one's hat in front of a guard at the wrong time, or for looking where one shouldn't look. In this case, the punishment was mostly with the usage of lashes. The most common was 25 strokes. The flogging took place during roll call in the presence of all prisoners. The guilty person was tied to a goat and an SS officer or a prisoner cooperating with the camp administration methodically beat the guilty person. The punished person had to count the blows out loud during the process. If he could not count because of the pain, more blows were administered. After the beating, the prisoner was obliged to report to the commandant of the camp. Mr. Commandant of the camp, prisoner number, for example some number, received 25 blows with gratitude. They were beaten for violating the speed of washing. In the morning, the prisoner had to run quickly to the concrete basin, splash cold water on his face, wipe himself with his sleeve, and literally run away. If a prisoner did not wash or did not wash fast enough, he was beaten. There could also be other punishments for not taking off one's hat on time in front of an SS member. The prisoner was ordered to lie on the ground, then beaten and sent to a pool of cold water, where the prisoner had to run until he fell. They were beaten for not fulfilling the norm on the job, or for being close to the fence, or for refusing to comply with the guard's wish. For example, two people were forced to beat each other with their forehands from a running start. For refusal to do so, a beating. In addition to beatings, prisoners were also punished by being sent to solitary confinement. In the Birkenau concentration camp, a special cell was used in which only 2 prisoners could stand. Very often, a person who was still alive stood next to a comrade who had died of starvation and frost. In addition to beatings, punishment in the form of full deprivation of rations or reduction of rations was also practiced. Apart from that, there were also so-called group punishments in concentration camps. Punishment for poor work was usually administered by what was called sport. Prisoners were forced to quickly fall to the ground and jump up, crawl and crouch down. The time of the execution depended on the desire and mood of the SS member himself. But the most terrible punishment of all was, of course, the death penalty. A prisoner was executed if he lost a tin tag with a number on it. If he watched another prisoner being mocked or killed. There was a punishment called 9 days, where each day one of the guards would beat a prisoner half to death. If he remained alive on the 10th day, he was executed. They also put the guilty on stools or benches, put nooses around their necks, and they had to stand on their tiptoes for hours at a time. Those who could not hold died in the tightened noose. For escaping from a concentration camp, not only the escapee was executed if he was caught, but also other prisoners. A few people from the 100 or the brigade were chosen, and they were shot in front of the formation. The number of victims was sometimes as high as 30. But if one of the guards or warders was killed in the process of escape, several dozen people could be executed at once. For example, on November 9th of 1942, 6 inmates killed a guard while working, and then they escaped. 110 people were selected by order of the camp commander and hacked to death with shovels and axes. The rest of the prisoners were standing around and had to sing loudly during the executions. A prisoner was executed for asking questions, for complaining, for walking too slowly or too quickly, for talking information or during work. The reason depended only on the desire and degree of perversity and cruelty of the guard. Particularly worth mentioning are the prisoners who were subject to the so-called bullet, Kugelerlass, directive. A secret Gestapo chief, Heinrich Müller, signed on March 2, 1944. All prisoners of war who escaped or attempted to escape were to be handed over to the Security Service, SD, for subsequent execution in the Mauthausen concentration camp. Such prisoners had a special badge sewed on their uniforms, which allowed any guard to kill a prisoner at any time simply for a casual glance. The main preliminary punishment of all prisoners was the punishment of all prisoners arriving at the camps was the so-called initiation. Those who were sent to the camp for the first time were tortured almost incessantly by the guards before arrival. Whipping, blows to the face, stomach and groin, and the cruelty went as far as gunshots and bayonet wounds. Prisoners were forced to kneel for hours and so on. An attempt to help a comrade or a refusal to hit another prisoner was followed by an instant gunshot to death. Such a procedure could last from half a day to a day. The purpose of all of it was to prepare the prisoners for camp life by breaking their human dignity completely.